You are now listening to the Hunter's Advantage podcast. We preserve the history and sport of hunting through curious conversation and action-packed hunts, as well as offering you tips and strategy for more successful hunts. The Hunter's Advantage podcast is powered by Out on a Limb Manufacturing. Out on a Limb is a family-owned company based right here in Oklahoma that makes tree stands, saddle platforms, climbing sticks, and so much more.
Christian, I have a quick question.
What's that?
What bites down harder, a hippo or an alligator?
No idea.
It's a trick question. The Ridge Runner 2.0 bites harder than both of them. But all jokes aside, we use these products all across the land on public or private. These help us get into any tree we want and hunt where the deer actually are.
Most men go to the grocery store for their meat, but these products help you go to God's grocery store. I have used the Out on a Limb Ridge Runner 2.0 and the Shakar sticks for the last few years hunting public land bucks, and I've actually shot several bucks out of this setup. If you want to support the podcast and get some Out on a Limb equipment, make sure to go to outonalimbmfg.com and use code HNTA10 for 10% off at checkout. Once again, if you want to support the podcast, go to outonalimbmfg.com and use code HNTA10 at checkout for 10% off. Now let's get back to the podcast.
Why are you fully decked up in camo?
Because why dirty other clothes when you can wear your camo? And because my camo smells like I've been in it for a week already.
That's why I took it off.
Because I was sweating. Alrighty.
Well, let's start this mug.
We're rolling.
Okay.
I know we're going to get through a full episode and it's not going to record or anything because I haven't.
Well, there's going to be that, and there's going to be the back, like all the noise of your truck falling apart down this road.
Well, here's the thing. Hopefully these headphones are good enough that they can mask that because they were expensive.
It's fine. So, is this our first truck cast, or I guess the official one? I think we did one on when we were heading down for TAC like 2 years ago.
We did one Total Archery Challenge truck cast, but we were holding the mics like this. You were driving with one hand holding a mic, and I was holding the other mic. And I was also wearing the headphones, and you weren't, so I was talking quietly. And I think you were like, why are you talking so quietly?
Yeah.
So this is the first truck cast. And I think this is the first one we've ever done from deer camp.
That is true.
Which is, it's different because the conversations when you get home from deer camp are different than the ones you have at
because you're in a good
camp.
mood.
Exactly.
You slept, you showered, and then now, I mean, granted, we've only been here like one night, but still yet. Like,
it feels good.
It does feel very good being down here.
And it's cold.
It's cold, foggy, so just a little preview.
Yeah.
We got a few good ones on camera, and believe it or not, guys, they're not where we expected it. So
what?
I know. It kind of threw me for a loop. I was super excited going into yesterday, just because the evening sits I feel like are the most fun sits.
See, I was talking to someone else about that. I completely disagree. I love the mornings way more than the
I do too. Like, I like the mornings if I already have a tree set up and like picked out and my stuff set up. That's when I like mornings. If I have to go in and try to find a good tree to hang, especially in a new area that I'm not familiar with, I'd prefer to like go to a spot I know in the morning and then in the evening go
explore.
Go check that out, because you can see and I feel like I'm more quiet and I make better decisions when I can like fully see, obviously.
Well, it's the best when you get up in a tree in the morning that it's like a new area and you get up and you're like, oh, this place sucks. So you're already like 18 foot up in the tree.
Yeah.
Then you're like, I'll stick it out, but you're pissed the entire morning.
See, that's what I try to avoid. But I mean, anyways, going back to yesterday evening, we got out there probably, I think we started heading out there, 2:30?
Yeah, we had some exploring to do and some cameras to pull, SDs to pull. So we got a kind of I wouldn't even say an early head start because we got there pretty much right on time. I felt
we did, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, about as good as you can or as early as you need to for how it is in October. And they said there was supposed to be a good cold front moving through. The temperature has dropped a little bit, but like it's nothing crazy. Like I could probably go out there in a long sleeve and be just fine still.
Yeah, it's weird because all the things of the cold front are coming in. Like you've got the wind coming in, you've got fog, you've got some dew, some rain, but the temperature's the same. It's still 65er.
Is there a mute button on here for future references?
Just go right there. That's yours.
Nice.
Yeah.
So going into yesterday evening, what were you kind of expecting the layout to be, and then what was the reality of the situation?
Well, we're hunting this we hunt a lot of topography where we're at, and there's this real long creek system, like super long creek system. And I thought there's several drainage fingers that kind of go into it. And I was wanting to get in one of those and kind of hunt a T where you're in the creek, but also in the finger at the same time. So you kind of got multiple things
You're right
coming
there at
together.
that intersection.
Yeah,
basically.
at the intersection. And there was from the map, Onyx has that historical acorns layer or oaks layer. And I thought, there was oaks all over the place, and so I was expecting to go down there and a nice little steady drop off and be in a good spot like that. But when I got in there, it's monotonous for 700 yards. I've never said this before, but almost too much food.
See, that's
every other tree was an oak,
and I think that's the first time we really ran into that situation here.
It's usually
where
you see them and you're like, woo!
Yeah, oh, great, I found an oak flat.
Right.
Great. But I mean, yeah, this. So Onyx has that layer. If people listening not knowing this, I didn't know this except for probably a month or two ago when you showed me this.
It's pretty cool.
There's actually an oak layer where you can turn it on, and Onyx shows you allegedly where all the oak flats are in big red blobs. And this place was just layered, and I was like, okay, have to see it to believe it. And it didn't disappoint, at least for this spot, because this was a situation where you're like, oh, cool, a whole bunch of oaks. Well, if you have a year like this year where the oaks are dropping like crazy good, it's where do you need to be? And this was I don't want to say one of the first times because I've been overwhelmed plenty down here, but one of these times where it's everywhere I walk, it looks the same and there's nothing I can do about it. Because kind of like what you were saying, my experience was, I mean, obviously it's on the side of a hill, but what's new here? When you get down there, there's that one main creek system, but what happens when that creek system, once you get down to it, it's just a straight drop off.
Mm-hmm.
And
that was new.
We didn't know that going into it, and so everything else above that, you couldn't really pick out really put a finger on where exactly they should be using it, and that's what was throwing me for a loop. I found 3 or 4 rubs, and I guess we can talk about the deadhead. That was
so cool.
found.
So in 2020, I shot a 9-pointer, probably
missing a 9-pointer.
Missed a 9-pointer. Yeah, I shot at him at ranged him, and he was 30 something, low 30s, and I shot it, and I knew he wasn't low 30s, but I shot anyways, and he ended up being 40, so I shot right underneath him. And previous maybe unethical self of mine was hey, I'm gonna do a follow-up shot on this deer, and I shot him. What was it? Was it 74 yards?
74 or 76. Yeah, one of the two.
Okay, and I hammered him.
I heard the shot, but at the time,
I watched it.
I couldn't see that far.
Yeah, you didn't have glasses at the time, but I shot that deer and hit him pretty much right in the shoulder, and got, I want to say 8 inches of penetration, might be generous.
It had to have been because of the blood trail.
Yeah, and we tracked this deer, and I remember when we found the arrow, I was like, okay, I definitely got enough penetration to kill him because I was shooting an expandable at the time, and it was the red carpet.
The arrow looked good.
It looked great. Was it not the red carpet going up and down that creek?
I mean, it was stand
up.
It was easy to see. It wasn't one of those where you had to throw your hands behind your back like your Sherlock Holmes,
investigating,
looking for clues. It wasn't like that. You could stand up straight, good posture, and easily follow the blood trail. It was one of those.
So we waited roughly an hour and a half, probably, between us celebrating in the tree and then getting down and not being able to find the arrow. Well,
enough time.
Right, enough time. And we started tracking. We went up and down this steep ravine. And I remember as we were walking up the other side of the ravine, it was starting to get better, the blood. And we're like, ooh, and we were getting close to the grass. What?
Well, we kind of talked about that because, I mean, we say an hour and a half. I do think it was closer to 2.5, just because, remember, for a good minute, we really, because everybody knows if you hunt a little bit of mountainous parts, once you get down from the stand, and especially if you go a distance of 75 yards or so,
yeah, you have no idea exactly.
It's just was he by this tree? Was he by this pine tree? And it's don't know. don't know. And so it did take us a good second to find like that arrow and that first initial blood. So it was a while, but also since it was such a far shot and like we really didn't know like what was going on with that deer, maybe we should have gave it more time. But after seeing that blood, that's what convinced us to like push as close as we did.
Yeah, and I remember there were several times where we were looking for the arrow where like I sent you back to the tree to like be like, all right, I think he was like in here, and we were like 75 yards apart. So when we found the arrow, red carpeted it all the way up, and we came up on the other side of this ravine. And I remember the first step we took into the hay meadow.
Yeah, the top of the ravine. Yeah,
jumped him up. He immediately jumped up, and we were like, oh my! At this time, this was I think this was the first public deer we'd ever like hit really good. I mean, we'd shot at some before, but
the AT&T towers.
Yeah,
the 13 point.
This is the first one I had seen someone shoot and then like see it after it had been shot. Like,
understood.
And so he jumped up, and they always look so big from behind.
Yeah.
But he started running away.
He was probably 15 yards from us when he jumped up.
Oh,
tall grass field, by the way.
Yes, and yeah, he jumps up and runs away. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I remember drawing back on him as he's running away. And I'm like, no stop. And
but he didn't look good getting up.
No.
He got up super slow, and he only got up because like obviously
we're gonna step on him.
Yeah. We were 15 yards away, and it's hard to be quiet at this time of year down there, especially like through the tall grass, because like regardless of how quiet you're trying to be. So the only reason he got up is because he felt like he had to. But when he got up, his head was like, it was almost like he was like just woke up. Super groggy.
Yeah, discombobulated.
Oh, you could have made that.
I'm still gonna make it. Watch this. Yeah, he got up and ran off, and I remember we were getting. I was like, oh my gosh, no. And I was like, that's a good buck. And you're like, he's a good one. Let's get out of here. And I remember we turned around pretty much immediately and walked out. And we came back, 5-6 hours later? Because I think it was probably a single lung hit. Is what it was. And we came back 5 or 6 hours later. And how much longer did we track him? Several more 100 yards.
Yeah,
6, 7 across another creek and ravine, and we lost blood at a spot. And I remember it because it was like a Sunday evening. And by the way, for people listening, not that we're just geniuses now, but this was a much dumber, stupid version of both of us, because
we didn't know what dogs or thermal drone was, and as if we even had the money for that.
No, I wouldn't have been able to hire a dog. I'd be like, dude, I'll give you a tire off my truck, or like,
I'll post you on Facebook. Thanks.
I'll let you on a podcast. We have like 4 listeners. No. But we didn't have any of that stuff. And I remember it was like 80s that day. We brought like 1 bottle of water apiece. We were sunburnt down there, and we lost blood. He crossed like a road, and we lost blood. And we jumped up a little buck in a little ravine. And I remember just like, we're like, dude, what are we going to do? Mm-hmm. It's 8 foot tall grass. Like, we're not going to find this
We're
deer.
like 3 miles from the truck at this point.
Yeah, like, what do we do? And we just didn't find him. And every time we went through that area, I've thought about that deer. And so yesterday, Jake and I are going to hunt this area. And I remember you were going to the right and I was going left. And I said, look out for that buck. Mm-hmm. I said, there's that buck is in there. Look out for it.
Because we lost last blood about where we split.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then what happened? You walked in and what happened?
I mean, probably maybe 200 yards, kind of closer towards this creek system. I see a like pearly white like little piece of vertebrae, and then I see another one probably 10 yards away, and I was like, okay, deer died here. Let's just investigate, because like obviously you see a part of a deer, it's like, where's the dead head? And probably 10 yards away from that vertebrae was antler sticking up, just laying flat on its head. Mm-hmm. And I was like, ooh, here we go, and pull it up. And at the time, I'm not even thinking about Christian's buck. I'm just like, oh, nice, because my thinking is, and I would like some of y'all to DM me as well and tell me how stupid I am if I'm incorrect, which I very well. At this point, I'm convinced it is the same deer after reviewing the footage and stuff. But at the time, I was like, there ain't no way the antlers are in this good a condition.
3 years later.
Being 3 years old.
Mm-hmm. And they're, by the way, they're bleach white.
They are bleach white. The nose is broke, but other than that, like it's a 9-point. Not one tine is broken off. I believe the right G2 is a little nibbled on.
Yeah.
But other than that, like antlers are basically perfect.
Yeah, and
it's not splintering or any of that mess, and like that's why I didn't give it like a thought where like, hey, that might be this buck, but the footage is almost overwhelming.
So the buck, not that he's super unique, but he has 5 on his left side and 4 on his right.
Yes.
And his G3 on his left side is slightly longer, has the crab claw for a G4. The eye guard is the exact same.
That, and what I was looking at last night is the eye guards kind of, which this is pretty common on about every single deer, but on this one in particular, they kind of go out almost like
looking away from each other almost?
Like a U-ish V, like a concave or whatever, just slightly going away from each other. Same exact on this deadhead.
Well, and when I looked at on the straight on angle, because when I stopped him when I shot, he has a really good angle of looking right at us, and you can see how the shape of the beams and how they cover.
Turn your windshield wipers off. That way it's not.
How they curve up just a little bit, and the size of the frame is exactly the same.
No, it's the frame, yeah.
And we lost him. You found him within 200 yards of where we lost blood, and I'm like, what are the odds that the deer, either his twin died, just like to avenge his brother's memory in his spot where he died too, or that's the same deer. And I have the footage. I was telling you, I have the footage at home on a hard drive, and I can pull it up like in 4K and actually zoom in on it. Because right now we're just looking at a YouTube video.
Yeah, and once you zoom in, it's like super, super grainy, and everything else looks good. What I'm wanting to see is just a crab claw on the left side, and if that's there, not a doubt in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
But
and when we taped him out. We taped him out.
We did tape him out, or you taped him out. So you got to like subtract at least 5 or 10 inches from.
So
from
I got him at 123, so he's probably 110,
probably
ish. So now he's a really good frame deer. He's just a pencil horn sucker, a little pencil horn deer,
and
mountain deer.
His frame is just, I mean,
it's narrow.
It is. It's more on the narrow side, like
14.
It is typical. What did we say, 14 and 5/8 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's, if we see one like that this evening, I'm going to bust it.
It might get deflated.
Lord willing.
Because I shot a buck here in 2021, and that buck that we found is basically the exact same deer with a G4, with a 3-inch G4. That's basically, and maybe a little bit better eye guards, but that is basically him. And he is like a textbook mountain deer, like pencily horned. Not that when they're mature they're all pencily horned, because they're not. They're not. But that's
an inside joke. Maybe one of these days y'all will get it.
Yeah, a big inside joke. They're not all pencil horn, but it seems like when they're 2 or 3 years old, they have huge frames, but they're penciled.
That is true.
Like huge frames. And
the first one I shot in 2020, it was almost the same setup, like great tine length, but just not there girthy wise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's weird. It's weird now I think it's almost like abnormally pencily. Like they're down here. It's like, because you see 2-year-olds other places, they'll have decent mass. These ones are like legit pencils.
Usually decent mass, but they're not like, they're below average on everything else.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool. I'm ready to go home and look at that footage, but
I think it's the same deer. Like 95% sure. 95% sure that's the same deer.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess that's what I'm asking. Are we stupid for thinking that a 3-year-old deadhead could still survive that long in this good a condition? Because you can pop up like the comparative videos when you post this.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another thing we're open to suggestion about, and we would like y'all's feedback on, is like that, because again, down here there's super tall grass, and so
like 8-foot tall grass.
Yeah, so it could have been enclosed in that, and then, like, let's say it somehow caught fire or whatever, then I don't know, because it was super sparse back there where I found it. But then again, like I said, like
if it had been sparse the entire time, though, I think that deer's chewed to crab. Mm-hmm. Because I don't think a deadhead sits there like that and doesn't get chewed up if it's there for very long. And so I don't know. it's really cool. But we ended up hunting that area. Did you like your spot in that area?
No. If I'm being honest. So where I found it, it was like 200 yards from the creek, and then there was this. I don't want to get too specific, but there was this terrain feature that I didn't like being close to, and what's this guy? Oh, I thought he was like pulling in here. I didn't like being close to, so I found sign.
Do you think these guys come, like people in towns drive by us and like, dude, there's 2 news anchors out there, out there in somebody's truck?
Probably.
What were you saying?
Like I found a good sign. Like obviously there was a dead deer there, but full circle, that deer's been dead for 3 years. But there's a legit German Shepherd literally right here.
Really?
It literally looks like a wolf.
Is it right at your door?
Like right here. That scared the crap out of me.
Dude, that guy's about to take your soul.
You see him?
Yeah, I see his blood.
But beside the point, like there was like I found probably 3 or 4 like fresh rubs. Like they were fresh.
Mm-hmm. And
I was trying to set up there, but the way that it's set up, I don't know. It was like super awkward because there was this tall grass little patch right here, and I was like, that's 100% bedding. But trying to set up on that transition from the bedding, moving into that vast sea of oaks, that's where I was trying to be, but I just couldn't find a good place. And like as I was walking through there, nothing was like just grabbing me saying, hey, this is where you need to be. Like it didn't look good. And I know people's going to say, well, deer aren't going to be in places where you think it looks good. They're going to be where they think it looks good. And like, I understand that concept, but still yet it's like, well, I didn't feel comfortable there. So,
well, that's what we were talking about earlier is when you find a spot, it's hard to describe it because it's like 90% feel, because you go into an area and it might be a good area. The stuff might be together, but if you can't imagine it or picturing it happen there, it's hard to be like, okay, I want to set up 4 sticks, get to the top of this, set up all my camera gear, because setting up in a spot when you're filming and stuff is a 45-minute commitment of getting in the tree and getting everything ready. And so if I don't it's hard to pick a spot if you don't have the utmost confidence in it. And so, because you feel like you're burning a sit, you're like, I could just walk around and I'd rather sit an hour and a half in the spot that I love than 3 hours in a spot that I'm like, I'm wasting my time.
And that's what I was trying to do yesterday evening, because we started walking out there at 2:30, and I didn't get set down until like past 4.
Almost 5.
Yeah. No, yeah.
You said 4:45.
Yeah, you're right. It was.
Yeah.
It was 4:45 when I like got to my tree. I wasn't even set up then. I got to my tree.
Because I was sat down. 4:15 I got in the tree and I was sweating. But 4:15 I got in the tree and I was like, okay, I think I'm in a good spot. Was settled down. And
also in a place with like low deer density, and I know I feel like I say this on every podcast, but I mean, you want to be in a place where you feel banger, because chances are, even if you're in a banger spot, you're not going to see very many deer. But you're at least like have that hope. And so that's what you really need when you're in places like this, is like just that hope, or just places in general. You need that hope to give you that drive to actually sit and be consistent in the spot.
Well, that's what stinks about a spot, is you might be in a good spot, but it might take a day and a half to get confirmation. And in most scenarios, you're not going to give it that confirmation. The spots
we were in, the way it sounds like,
probably
we
not.
need to move on.
Yeah, but it stinks because you have to get that confirmation sometimes doesn't come. And like a good example is like that buck, the 165 incher that Justin shot last year.
I've been using the new Exodus Rival cell camera for the last couple months, and I have found a beautiful mainframe 8-point with tons of stickers to go after this fall.
Ooh.
One thing I do appreciate about Exodus trail cameras is all of the cameras share the same data plan, so you only pay for what you need. A lot of cell cam companies charge you for HD pictures. I've seen prices of $5 for 50 HD pics. Exodus is going to give you unlimited HD pictures right to your phone, which is awesome when you're sitting there in the middle of the summer and it's 100 degrees and you just want to binge a bunch of trail cam photos.
If you're looking for a solid cell camera with great performance and a 5-year no BS warranty, go check them out. So as we all know, hunting gear is something people can make way too complicated. Arrows can be the exact same way. Instead of going down all those rabbit holes, trying to sift through the endless information that's online, and you're not really sure if it's right or wrong, Exodus makes it simple to get the right arrow for your exact setup.
So go online to the Exodus Arrow Builder. It takes less than a minute. You're going to enter your draw weight, your draw length, and how heavy of a point you're shooting. And it's going to be that simple. Let the guys at Exodus take care of the rest.
So if you're interested in Exodus Rival cell cameras or a new set of their MMT arrows, just go to ExodusOutdoorGear.com and use code HA15 for 15% off anything on their website.
Once again, that is ExodusOutdoorGear.com. Use code HA15 at checkout for 15% off. Now let's get back to the podcast.
He saw like 2 does in that spot, and he kept hunting it for like 3 days. And then one day shoots a 165. It's like that can happen. But you want to be in a high percentage spot. And I feel like those are there's those, and there's what we're in right now, which I don't feel too confident
That
in.
is true. So as you're walking through, did you even bump a deer? Now, I know yesterday was kind of a bad day for deer to be on their feet.
I didn't see a rub.
You didn't see a rub or anything?
I barely saw a bed. There was too much good stuff in one spot. Like, too much of a good thing is not a good thing.
There wasn't any limited resource you could key in on.
No, exactly. And we found other spots, in this general area that is like more secluded or more isolated patches of oaks. And that's what I've always had success on when hunting those food like that, is not a spot that has 800 yards worth of oaks. I'm talking a spot that's like a 100-yard section of timber with like a few really good ones in there. Like, that's what the community center is.
That's literally
Exactly
what I was
what
just thinking about was that bowl up down there.
Yeah, so I think that's what we're going to try this evening. We got a good front coming in, and I hope
Allegedly.
Allegedly. The weather keeps getting more worse, but the cold isn't coming with it. So I was expecting to wake up this morning nippy, and I just woke up wet.
Yeah. Somehow, we were in the wall tent, and obviously it rained and stuff. But my sock, nothing else was really wet. Like my sleeping bag wasn't.
My pillow
really wet.
was wet.
Was it wet?
It was damp. Yeah. I was
Really?
like, what's going on?
But my socks were, and I was like, this is odd.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We'll. I guess we'll have an update tomorrow. But I do have high hopes for the place we're setting today. It's basically more of the same as we set today, except hopefully less. Basically, it's down that same creek system, but I guess there's a little bit more to go off of, maybe, because there's that little nooket, and also it kind of plateaus out a little bit. And I guess I need to be verbal when I say nooket. I mean there looks to be a little less trees, I should say. So there's a little
more defined bedding area.
Yeah,
is what it is.
It's not even like a finger. It's and I guess that's why I said a little nooket. It's like a little bitty bump of trees along this creek line, and then there's this field, which on X says there's oaks, smaller amount of oaks than we were just in, and I think you're going to set on the other side of that, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it is a little bit different than where we're hunting, but it is the same creek. So
yeah.
I don't know. We'll see.
I feel a lot better about where we're going this evening. We got these new News on 6 podcasting headphones.
They sound good.
They do sound good, but the reason is because we want to do more of these kind of semi-live podcasts, because one thing I don't like is for instance, last weekend, Carol's buck and the buck that I shot, those didn't come out. We're doing podcasts every 2 a week. And those didn't come out for 8 days. And it's old, almost old news.
Yeah, but people got to understand, when we're away from home, our wives want to see us when we get back. And so then when scheduling becomes a problem then.
Yeah, it's harder to get on to talk about it.
Yeah.
And then in these scenarios, when we record them at camp, we can release them a lot quicker. And they're also shorter, easier to edit. They're more run and gun. They're just one GoPro. They're not
I feel like it's more vivid
angles.
detail too.
Exactly. Well, I remember things because one thing that I noticed the other day when we were talking about Carol's buck with paddles, that podcast came out today. We forgot that this 150-inch buck, Mr. Next Year, came out after he shot paddles. And if we would have talked about it that day, that would have been one of the first things he said. But a week later, we forgot. It was oh yeah, that did happen. Yeah. And you start remembering stuff. And even after the podcast, so I think these situations, like if somebody shoots a buck or somebody misses a buck,
If we
or
have an
somebody has a
encounter,
good
that'd be
encounter, like it's
exciting.
people get on and you remember those details a lot better. So I'm excited that we got the gear and stuff to do these more often because they're super easy to do. And the thing is too,
It's a lot easier to do it face to face.
right? And we have these conversations whether these are on or not. So it's like it's a lot.
It's kind of true.
We've been talking about. You should have seen us in the tent earlier. We were talking about finding a spot for like an hour. That wouldn't have been entertaining for a podcast, but these kind of conversations are better.
Should we do that one time? Because like people might. I mean, granted, I know we're dumber than a box of rocks, but
$2.
But yes. Do you think people would find that like entertaining? Just like the thought process behind like trying to figure out a spot.
I think so. Yeah.
Let us know.
Yeah. Let us know. But we haven't been here much, so we don't have a ton to talk about, but I'm ready for this evening. The last time we had a weather front like this where it was real, I don't know why, but I don't see fog anywhere else but the mountains like this.
Really?
Like you get in the mountains and the fog.
You ain't got no moisture in Texas, son.
True, it is dry. But the fog here is worse than anywhere I've ever been. And you can't see 6 foot in front of your face. And the last time we had a front like this was the last week in November, or the week in November we hunted last year down here. And the hunting was really good that evening because of that. I feel like those deer hunkered down in the rain and stuff. It's been raining all morning.
I wonder how Mason and Luke did.
I don't know. So we got both my brothers at camp, and Luke is 15 and Mason is 23.
If you ask him, he'd just say old enough.
Yeah, old enough. But yeah, Mason's 23, and they were both in camp. Luke stayed in the wall tent with us last night, and Luke hasn't. This is kind of, I think, his first time out like hunting public land, like putting a climber on your back and going and hunting. And he woke up this morning. He put on a t-shirt and one like thinnest jacket you could put on. And I think both of us were like, "You want something? You need to put something else on." He's like, "Oh, it'll be all right." And then we got out and it was raining.
"I'm good."
Yeah, I'm good. I've learned the hard way too. I've learned that way with Justin hunting. So I bet Luke will be packing a couple more things in his bag.
I would say so
this time. But he went out with Mason, and it was funny because Mason went from Luke's never shot a deer with his bow, and Mason went from, "Hey, let's go sit together because I don't want to leave you alone."
And he's saying that last night.
Yeah, he said, "Let's go sit together. I'll let you shoot first." To by the end of the night, he said, "You can shoot if it's a doe."
Yeah.
and Luke goes, "How many deer have you killed with your bow?" And Mason's like 2 or 3, and he's like, "I haven't killed any. Why do you get to shoot first?" And they started getting into it. It's really, really funny.
That'd be I don't know. Like that's a hard thing to do for your first bow kill, and it be on public, and especially like down here.
Well, and
that's a good way to break you in.
Oh, I mean, it's how Justin broke me in. I think I'd killed a deer before, but I remember going to the mountains and shooting a doe with my bow on public. I was like, I am Robin Hood. I will survive the apocalypse.
Yeah.
I can do, especially when you're young like this. Justin took me even younger than Luke is right now. So I don't know. It's fun when you shoot your first deer on public land with a bow. He'll be asking to come every weekend.
My first one was a doe too, or not my first bow kill, but
on public.
Yeah, because I shot my first doe. My first bow kill ever was a doe, and then I shot that buck back at the buddy, and then we came here and I shot 2 doe in one sit.
That was awesome.
And we only found one of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that's when we got lost.
Yeah, that's when we got lost, and it was nighttime, and I was like, "Where are we?"
Yeah, I remember.
I was screaming it, and we're in the middle of this head-high grass, and he's like, "It's 200 yards this way, I swear." And then we ended up dragging it another 600 yards, and I was like, "Where are we?"
I remember that. Yeah, well, we sent Luke into the community center, which is like not a bad hike at all, but Mason still didn't want to leave him alone, I guess.
I understand.
But they came. Justin, Jordan, and Mason came last weekend, and they all hunted this area, and Justin shot a buck. A nice buck, like 120-inch buck. Andy shot a doe in one sit. Mason shot a pig, and Jordan shot a doe. So they shot 4 animals in like 2 days last weekend on public. So we have a way better front coming in today, and so I'm hoping that we can start getting into them because yesterday evening was not it, and this morning was not it. But
yesterday it might have been it. We just weren't in that it place.
Weren't in the chips. Yeah. So we'll do more of these. These are fun.
It was fun.
These
I
are
liked
fun.
it. I enjoyed it this way a lot more.
So we're going to do more of these semi-live episodes. We'll try to get them out as quickly as we can so you guys can kind of get a better look into what we're actually doing week to week. And it's easier to do when we're all hunting together. And
if you're watching this, all this in the background will probably be blurred.
That's right. Out of respect, because Jake's giving away public land spots in his videos now.
Absolutely. Pat Mays Wildlife Refuge. Go check it out.
Yeah. Some angry Texan's going to be on that now.
I'm pretty sure it's like a controlled area too.
Well, someone commented on the video that you did and said, this is a draw area only. It doesn't matter. And I'm like, you gave away some good hunting spot or something.
It's in Texas, and it's public land in Texas, so I doubt it's any good anyways.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we're gonna get off here, and hopefully this evening or after tomorrow morning's hunt, we got some more stuff to talk about. But
this evening we're gonna be a little busy.
That's right. My back will hurt from bone, I hope.
Yeah. Well, that sounded a little wrong. We meant dragging out a big buck is what we meant. I don't know what Christian meant. That's what I meant.
Don't come in the wall tent after 8 p.m. If it's
My
zipped,
back's going to hurt because of the bone.
If it's zipped, mind your own business. You find a padlock on the wall tent.
We need some caffeine, damn it.
Yeah. All right. Well, if you guys enjoyed these, make sure to leave us a rating and review and leave us some comments. So with that, we'll catch you guys in the next one.
Jesus loves you.
Bye.
Thank you guys so much for checking out the Hunter's Advantage podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure to leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcast, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to the podcast. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you in the next episode.